Hello and welcome to the Heart's Frontier. I'm Kate Graham, and if this is your first time being here, then welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is a bit of a funny time because I'm currently doing this live for the Pendulum Power workshop series, but I also know that this is going to get posted to YouTube. So sort of doing a bit of a crossover of, what's normally more behind the wall. And normally I don't start with, hi, welcome to the Heart's Frontier when I do a workshop. So a little bit of a weird one that way. But welcome. So today I'm going to be going over basically an introduction to pendulums. Let me just plug in my laptop here so I don't lose y'all. Going to be talking about pendulums, about intuition, about why I started using pendulums as well, what use I find working with clients, different ways of working with pendulums, and a little bit about this pendulum workshop series. So to start off, welcome to this pendulum workshop series. I never thought that I would be doing a workshop series on pendulums, to be honest. I tend to teach people to return to their own intuition, return to themselves, and not really need too much extra. And I love healing tools and I love getting things that support my healing. And you'll know that about me, if you're in my life or if you watch what I do, I definitely love expanding my tools. But I don't love the idea that we're dependent on something outside of ourselves to bring us inward. And so that, I think, is why I would say I'm a little surprised even at myself doing pendulum workshops sometimes. But what pendulums and pendulum work tends to teach me is how it's a gateway into that space where you suddenly then connect to yourself and you do know what you're thinking and you do, know what you're intuiting as well. So I have a pendulum here that I've made, which is not one that I have for sale because it's got a little turtle charm on it, which has different significance to me. But I like using it. So sort of a personal one here. Oop. And I just need to, take this charm off actually. Okay, so I'm going to take the charm off and then, we'll get started. So one of the reasons that I started using pendulums was actually because of a period of time in life where I was quite overwhelmed. And so I love bringing pendulum work to clients. I always include it in month 1 of Empath Energetics because I think it's really important to get back to a place in your mind that you recognize is your own internal voice and not the voice of everything else around you. What we can do in life is listen to a lot of voices that are not ours. We listen to a little inner voice that sounds more like our mother or father, or more like teachers we had growing up, or more like a kid who was rude to you. And you have this sort of negative voice that sounds like maybe the way you might have been bullied. There's lots of, you get the government telling you what is right and what is good to do. You might have religious leaders or things like that, your beliefs that are showing you the way in which to live your life. And so it can be difficult sometimes to make your own decisions, not to mention that now we have an abundance of information available to us. And so getting to intuition and that intuitive place in your mind is not about discrediting or discounting or forgetting any of that really useful knowledge and information and facts and logic. It's really about, I guess, discerning and choosing between multiple options that present themselves. And as well, it can be also used for divining and accessing the part of our mind that does have an awareness about the future timelines, or predictive patterns. Okay, so we're not going to get too into, what exactly is this? How exactly does this work? That's something that I do dive into more in one-on-one time, because I guess to translate that really depends on the person that you're speaking to and how they interpret the world to start. Anywho, so this is, like I said, your introduction to pendulums. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the use of them, ways that I have been introduced to them, ways that I'm going to explore teaching them. So some things you can look out for over the next few weeks, maybe even months. If I start running out of topics, I might just recycle and start teaching them again with even more added to them. But some of the things that I find really valuable are asking yes and no questions, which we'll talk about a bit today. I'm going to have one of our pendulum workshops, not the next one, but the one after that is going to be about asking the right questions. And that will be all about how you ask questions. And so that's really important. It'll be a really hands-on one, that one I'm hoping. So please do come out to it. I don't have them set for too high of a cost. So I would love if you're able to pay to come. That would be awesome. And if you're in a position where paying to come to a workshop is just totally outside of your reach, then just get in touch with me. I don't want that to hold anyone back from deepening their intuition. So as far as these workshops go, just let me know if that's something that you could use assistance with. Otherwise, it's $11 a workshop. And if you're part of the Soul Circle, which gets access to all the workshops, then it's cheaper as well. So just choose which option works for you. I will link them below. Again, so odd to be doing this in a workshop format, but also knowing that I'm posting it to YouTube. So thanks for I guess understanding that that's how YouTube works. We need to tell people what we're doing. And so pendulums. This is one pendulum. Again, I've taken the charm off here. So I sell different black obsidian pendulums. It's hard to see. Maybe I shouldn't have worn black for this. But I use different black obsidian pendulums and rose quartz pendulums as far as the ones that I sell. So you can find those. I'll put them in the link below as well. And I tend to use them with I actually tend to wrap it around my finger a little and then hold it. And that's because I like having a shorter pendulum string. So the breakdown of a pendulum: you must have one pointy/heavy thing at the end. You must have a chain or string of some kind that allows some level of free movement. I love this fairly thin chain because it really is more sensitive. Then usually there's something at the top. This one I took it off, but usually there's something at the top just to kind of hold on to. Some people hold on directly, they'll have a charm and they hold on just to the charm. I don't think it's necessary, to hold it like this, like as if you're not in control of it, or you're really trying not to affect it in any way. I know that as we build trust in ourselves and build trust in our pendulum, sometimes we can kind of not trust the process and therefore then try to manipulate it so that we're I'm not affecting it at all. What's really important is that your mind isn't going in and affecting it. So I'll get more to that, and we'll talk more about that when we go into asking the right questions. So a big part of pendulum work is really the mindset to which you approach it. And that's, again, why it's such a good training ground for your intuition. Because if you can ask the right types of questions of your pendulum, you will then start asking the right types of questions for your own inner voice before you even get to your pendulum. And then you'll be answering them more and more. And so that's another reason I love to introduce clients to pendulum work. If you're watching this on YouTube or in the replay and you don't have something cozy, I have a blanket here and I've got I have a little mocha today that I'm actually sipping on. So if you don't have something like water beside you, if you need to grab a pen and paper and your pendulum, then go do that. Make sure you pause and go do that. I want everyone always to kind of show up and feel like they can be themselves and be cozy. And I think being cozy gets the mind, unfocused on your body needs. And so then you can be more focused on your intuitive needs. Num, num, num. Okay. So again, the makeup of a pendulum: some sort of pointy thing, some sort of chain, kind of usually something on the end. I tend to use a fairly short pendulum. This is also because I'm a fire sign and I just love getting quick answers to things. But I do know some people, and especially a little bit more slow, a little bit more not slow as in mentally, I guess I just mean slow pace, people who can take it easy in that sense. Clearly not me. People who are a little bit more slow paced tend to use these longer pendulum strings. And that's because they go, there's a movement that feels a little bit more I don't know, I guess it just suits their mood, suits their energy a bit more. So grab your pendulum. And then if you've never worked with a pendulum, this is a good place to start. If you have, then, just try to remember this time. If you've never worked with a pendulum, I do think it's good to connect with it. And so just hold it in your hands, just take a look at it. Building a bit of a connection, even in your mind, to say, I'm reverent, I appreciate, this wisdom, the value of using this pendulum. Like, I hope we work together well. I speak much more like friendships wise to items in my head. So I go, oh, I hope we work together well. I trust you, thank you for existing. Thanks for being here, walking into my life. You have your little moment, an energy moment of connection. It might feel a little silly. I am being a bit silly about it for that reason. It might feel a bit silly, but there is something very useful about feeling connected to life and feeling connected to what you're doing. I would argue that that's what keeps a lot of people from even feeling fulfilled. It's just the avoidance of the feeling. So it's like everything on paper looks like you could just feel fulfilled by your life, but you're avoiding even the feeling of joy, of pleasure, of fulfillment, and of connection. So important to connect so that you can get the answers you need as well. And then what I would do is hold, this is so funny that I chose to wear a black shirt. So then you'll hold it. I like to hold it over top of my hand. I just appreciate doing that. So you'll hold it maybe over top of your hand, maybe over top of something else. And then this is already my yes. So this is great. I'm asking my pendulum, internally in my mind, I'm sort of here and there. And I'll say, is now a good time to be doing pendulum work? And yeah, that's my yes. And so I'll say, show me a yes. That's still my yes. And then show me a no. And yeah, you will be able to see that kind of goes straight in a line, eh? So you saw it was in a circle, and then now it's going in a straight line. And what's usually happening, just to help you logical thinkers out there with understanding a bit more of how this works, is that our muscles and our bodies know instinctively. And the way we receive intuition is usually actually in senses. And so what we're doing is actually just bringing a tool out to read that sense. But ultimately, our fingers, our muscles, our bodies know a yes or know a no before our mind does. Okay. So if we go on that assumption, then our mind is trying to understand based on everything it's picking up what to think. And so it's very overwhelming. That's why we work with our mind a lot when we work with intuition. There's no way to avoid the mind when strengthening your intuition. Okay, so we ask a question and then our body receives a yes or a no, and then minute changes happen in the hand. We are not paying attention to the hand because then we question ourselves, right? We look at the pendulum and then we say, well, that's our answer. And because we are humans and the way humans view progress or reality, definitely reality, is by vision. So, we see things visually from our eyes and we know them to be true or real. And that is just for a large portion of humans. That's how we think reality is. It's, I can see this mug, therefore it is real, right? And that is something that I obviously don't work with because I work in the non-ordinary realm. So I often joke that's actually more real than what we call this physical reality. It's actually less so reality. We could go for hours and days and weeks and probably my entire life talking about that concept. But I guess to take from that what you need, it's just important to know that what you're picking up on is absolutely real. And the pendulum is giving you a tool to show it. So you are already getting body signals and then you're responding to that. And some people will also maybe throw up a question here of, okay, but how do I know that's not just my mind? And the way that you know it's not just your mind is that by clearing and receiving mentally without interruption, whatever answer the pendulum has, you're going off your intuition, your instinct, and what your body is responding as a yes or no. So often when I work with a client, I will feel really good at the end of a session, not really feeling like I thought too much. And it feels odd, right? Because someone talking to me would go, well, why weren't you thinking during our session? I would prefer a practitioner who thinks. And so I'm being a bit facetious. That's definitely not total truth. We use our thought. No matter what, you're going to look at this pendulum and you're going to say, oh, it's saying a yes. Oh, well, how does that make me feel? And kind of go through that series of questioning. And what I'm doing as an intuitive practitioner is kind of doing the same thing, but in my own body and with a bit more structured and a bit more vast of a receiver, right? So someone will come to see me. Maybe they're talking about a conversation they need to have with their boss. Okay. So someone's coming in, they're saying, I really feel like I need to have this conversation with my boss. And I'm getting this feeling like, no, 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 no. And it feels really odd because, like, what does it matter to me if they talk to their boss or not? You know what I mean? That doesn't actually affect my life really directly. And so why would I have this feeling of no, right? And sometimes I'm picking up on that person's feeling. So without trying to assume too much, I'll say, does it feel entirely necessary that you have that conversation? Well, I need to because of this and this and this and this and this. And, when people will explain their reasons for doing something, usually they've already rationalized that away. So they might have had a feeling of, no, I don't want to do this call. No, I don't want to do this talk. And then rationalized why they do need to, in fact, do it based on maybe what they've heard, some sort of built out societal expectation. Someone, told them that it's a good idea. And so therefore they think, yeah, that's probably right. I probably wasn't thinking correctly about it. And so they've actually denied their own intuition, which says, yeah, don't have this conversation. This is an interesting one because normally I would opt for saying something, but just let's take it that in some scenario, this person is actually meant to let this one lie and wait to see what else happens. Maybe this person's jumping forward in time and I really need to deal with this before it becomes an issue. Okay, maybe that's actually going to worsen it, right? And so this person in this situation has choice. They can move forward. They can talk to their boss. They can have that conversation that they feel they're supposed to have. And they can watch as, in this scenario, things worsen and things heighten because they're not listening to their own intuition. Or they could respond to that internal, I don't think I should be doing this, and really try to figure it out. And it's a bit of a longer road, right? To go against what people say sometimes is tough. To go against what even is logical, I will tell you, I have like chills when I say this, which means it's very, very true. There are many times in my life where it has been very challenging for me to follow my intuition, but I'm so thankful I did, because there are times that it has brought me closer to people because they've not understood me. And then by me waiting and really following my intuition, they've grown to understand why I would have taken a certain route. Or it's shown me who's really there to support me and the vibrant, abundant, odd life that I live, and who's really in the friendship more so for their own needs to be met, which is no real judgment, but it just goes to show me, how I need to then address that friendship. And so going back to this situation of if someone has a boss that they are feeling like they shouldn't talk to about something, they don't want to talk to about something, but everyone else or the expectation or what they're being told or HR or, whoever your friends are telling you, oh no, you should. Should be, your first indicator that something is off about that. And you don't need to do anything just because someone says you should. That just goes across the board. Or this person listening to their intuition could feel like, but if I avoid the conversation, then all those people have a judgment about me. If I avoid this conversation like I want to, then maybe my problem doesn't get resolved. And so your brain is really, really trying to work out what is right here. And your brain's not going to come up with the right answer, but intuition will. And that's something that I find really valuable and really underrated, underestimated, that we can have a lot of information about something and still not make the right call for our spirit, because we can look at the logic and go, well, that all adds up to this, but our feeling doesn't match. And our path is meant to lead us a different direction. And, not everybody does things a logical way or the way things should be done. And some of those people are the people who change the world. Some of those people who step outside of what was reasonable are people who really do make a super large, positive, everlasting impact on the world even. So, be brave and start following your intuition. You never know, you might change the world. Okay, back to how to use this pendulum. So say you have that situation where you're not really sure what you should do about a conversation with your boss. And you've had this kind of like no, no, no feeling, but you're trying to figure out whether it's anxiety or whether you need to follow your intuition, right? Pendulums for me have been really helpful in situations like that because it brings you outside of you and into looking at what is this thing saying? What answer am I getting? I'm like trying to find a way. You can see me. This is not the way you hold a pendulum. I'm just trying to get it so that you can actually view it away from my sweater. And so what you notice when you are actually asking your pendulum questions more often is that you can kind of trust it because you're viewing it and it's outside of yourself. Then over time, you learn to pay attention to what those subtle yes and no, and maybe this and maybe not, and maybe more signals are in your own body. I gesture to the heart a lot because I do feel it comes from like your heart or your sacral. But sometimes it comes from your third eye, which gets people real confused because they can see forward, especially with divining and kind of fortune telling, like, is this thing going to happen? Yes, no. You can definitely ask the pendulum those questions. It might seem unusual for you to be able to access the future and your own interpretation and intuition based on what you know of the future. I like to think that everything, I've been wrong before. I have the capability of being wrong. I understand that. And yet I also did I think I've done like over 2,000 readings. I used to be on a psychic chat site. And on that site, I had a 4.8 out of 5-star rating. And that's not me trying to brag. This is me just saying, hey, this is a fact. It is possible to have a level of accuracy that doesn't make a lot of logical sense based on what you were told about how we interpret information. How is it that someone could chat to me on a chat site and then I could just know something that is going on, something that will happen, something that they aren't seeing, and be able to help these people with their life? And I will say the 0.2 stars out of 5 that were not happy with our readings every single time were people who came on who were searching a specific answer, and I did not give them that answer they were looking for. And usually they were out of the conversation 3 minutes or less because they came in looking for a specific line of validation. And I say this kind of jokingly, but it's really not a joke. They weren't ready to receive the answer. And I say, don't ask any questions that you're not willing or ready to see the answer for. Because the thing is, it can throw you into another sort of head loop. I don't think you need to intuit and foretell all of the events of your life. In fact, you would stop living your life because you would actually just know what was happening. And then you would start to see less and less because you'd start to see you're changing to do less in your life if you're only ever looking forward. People will say that to me like, oh, can you use your psychic powers to tell me what's going to happen to me? Yeah, you should probably book a session if we're really going to talk about your life destiny. And that's actually a really important thing. So it's not something to be taken willy-nilly. It's not like, it's not like a party trick or a game. It's just access to information. So you want to be careful, right? It's like you don't want to overload your system or watch a horror movie right before you sleep. You're careful about the information you intake so that it doesn't disrupt your life, right? You're maybe not going to watch horrible, awful world news updates until you've woken up a little bit because it feels sometimes defeating to watch it first thing. I don't know how people watch morning news. That's a rough way to start the day, in my opinion. I know they're all cheery. Like those morning show hosts are way more cheery. But, you have to be sensitive and careful about how you intake information based on how you're then going to act the rest of your day. And same with intuitive work. You don't want to go in and ask questions that you really don't want the answers to. And it's important, too, that you go in really seeking an answer. So you're not seeking, well, I don't think, it's going to show me anything, or I don't think there's any way I could know that. That's really not an energy to go in approaching this with, because you're not going to be trusting even what you're seeing. So hopefully when you do this calibration process at the beginning and ask, hey, is now a good time for me to be doing pendulum work? If you were in that energy, hopefully it would say, no, it's still a good time for me. So let's do a little pendulum work. grab your pendulum. I'm going to take you through the calibration process, and then I would love for you to ask one yes or no question. So you can put them in the chat. You can put them in the comments below if you're watching on the replay, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can also put them in the comments below. I just love to know what questions people are asking, or if you have any questions up until this point. Okay, so I'm going to show you the calibration process and then talk to you about a few different ways I'm going to be teaching you to work with pendulums over the next few weeks. So I'll be doing this every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern. So that becomes 9 a.m. PST. So if you're over in BC or you're over on the West Coast, I'm in Ontario, Canada right now. So talking to my Canadian BC folks, but I know that I have people kind of from lots of different areas actually. And then I also want to do Eastern I want to figure out UK time because I am moving there next year. And so keep thinking, oh, I should really actually start saying what time it is in the UK as well. So I'll be doing these every Wednesday at 5 p.m. in the UK, 12 p.m. Eastern time, and 9 a.m. Western or Pacific, not Western, Pacific time. So that's that. And if you need other translations of time, you just let me know. I'm sometimes surprised by where people will jump in from. Most folks are in Canada. So hopefully this time of 12 p.m. can work for some, maybe doesn't work for others. I wanted to mention too, before we do this calibration, I wanted to mention I will be doing Align Your Life and Align Your Business events as well. So the pendulum stuff is all part of Align Your Life because it's a tool for developing your intuition. Align Your Business will have more things that really bring in business and focusing on productivity, efficiency, leadership, confidence, any tech or social media things, authentic marketing over manipulative marketing, stuff like that. So let me know if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff. Business is totally what I am jiving with and focusing on for sure the next few months, but energetic alignment always is a part of that. In fact, every Align Your Business one-to-one person who works with me will automatically get access to Align Your Life stuff because I don't think someone can align their business if they are unaligned. So you got to align your life and align your business kind of at the same time. So I give any of those people access to all of it. For Align Your Life people, I don't, just because you're at a lower rate, and Align Your Business might not be interesting to you or necessary. So yeah, that's why. And so I'll be doing Align Your Life workshops as well on Saturdays. So they're a little bit different than just pendulums. But yeah, pendulums, Align Your Life, and then I'll start dripping in Align Your Business events as well. So we won't have another Empath Energetics until the new year, like after I move and settle in and feel like doing another one once I'm in Scotland. So it's really like business and energetic alignment and one-to-one services for the winter, which makes a lot of sense because I think that's actually kind of how people are in the winter. They sort of need to focus inward. Okay. I didn't mention it's a peppermint mocha, but I'm feeling very in the season, true to the season. So calibration time, everyone. Grab your pendulum. It's okay if it starts swinging. I see this all the time, and I actually find it so cute that when someone starts using a pendulum for the first time, they're like, they make it very still. They're like, and they kind of need to like sit and watch it. And then, so, I always leave it with movement. So, okay, imagine. And then someone sits there and goes, and then they try to ask their question. And then they hope that, defying logic, things start to move. And like even now, it does start to move. But isn't that so much harder? Isn't that so much more taxing than actually it just already having some kind of movement? Because what happens truly, it changes directions. As long as it's already moving, it changes direction. So if I just pick this up and it's already moving, okay, you can see it, it's already moving. And I say, okay, show me a yes. Now it starts actually changing into being my shape for a yes. And then show me a no. And yeah, I think you can see that it changes to a lion. Mine's pretty easy to like visibly see, which is a good thing for us on Zoom here. But mine is like a circle or a line if it's a no. yours might be different. So this calibration time is important. You say is now, or you say first, show me a yes. And so you get your pendulum to show you a yes. So again, mine is a circle. Yours might look different. Yours might be an oval. Yours might be this way, might be that way. Use your yes feeling in your body of what you already know a yes to feel like. So just saying, yes, 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 yes. And just get happy, feel calm. It's like a happy, calm yes. It feels certain and it feels exciting, but not that kind of nervous excitement. That's the difference between, intuition and anxiety, that nervousness that kind of comes along with it. It's more of a fear rather than an intuition. Okay, so that's a yes, and then show me a no. And if you want, if you're, just getting used to doing this, try doing that a few times. Show me a yes, show me a no, show me a yes, show me a no, show me a yes. And then what you want to do is keep a little bit of movement here so that you actually have something that it's starting with. And that really is just to make your life easy. If you really want to test it and you want to start from still, go and do that. But I don't find it useful. I've never found it that useful. I get accurate. I get accurate answers all the time. And yeah, it's not so much a concern. And then you want to say, is now a good time to be doing pendulum work? And I will show you, I actually just switched hands and I still have a yes. I still have a no. Is now a good time to be doing pendulum work? And thankfully for all of us, it's a yes. It's a good thing that I use my intuition to even set up these events, because I think if I didn't, maybe every now and then, if I just randomly came on, was like, I'm doing pendulum stuff now, and I didn't test this all beforehand, maybe it would tell me a no, and it would be a really short recording. Okay, sorry, now's not a good time. So make sure it's a good time. And one of the things that would tell you it's not a good time to do pendulum work is if you are in crisis, upset. There is a time and place for every intuitive tool. It's not possible for you to really access your intuition when you're very stressed. And so you can be stressed, having stress, but then clear yourself in a moment, and it can be a good time to do pendulum work. But when you're mid-tears and, you're you just broke up with someone and then you're trying to figure out if they're your soulmate and you're all shaky, it's like, okay, that's not going to be a time that you ask the pendulum anything. And so it's just really important, if you're really thinking, hey, that's what I need to move forward, I've got to take some time with my pendulum, but you're getting that now is not a good time, you can shift that. So you can go on a walk, you can do some spiritual work, you can do a smudging, smoke cleanse, you can, just get any type of movement in. You could drink a bunch of water. Water clears our energy in such a beautifully powerful way for how simple the activity is. You can even just take some deep breaths for a while and try to clear your mind and try to come to a place of peace and receptivity. You've got to be in a listening and in a receiving mode in order to receive what the pendulum has to say. So if you got to know, those are some techniques that you can use to try and, settle yourself so that it can become a yes, that it is a good time for you to do pendulum work. So hopefully you've gotten your yes, you've gotten your no, and then you've asked, is now a good time to do pendulum work? So I've asked that, I've got my yes, I've got my no, and then I've asked if it's a good time to do pendulum work. And thankfully, again, we are still in a circle, which is great. Now I'm going to ask you to ask a question that you already know the answer to. So mine is, am I 30 years old? Yes. So that's correct. And then you can ask a question you don't know the answer to. So I'm doing mine in my head. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to tell you what it was. I just wanted to know the answer. It's like sacred, I think, for me sometimes to ask a question for the first time of my intuition directly. I don't ever share it outwards. So I'm fine sharing it with you now a moment later, but I don't know. That's a funny rule. I don't have very many rules, but keeping something sacred for me to be reverent and show my own intuitive self, hey, I listened to myself first before sharing it out or exposing it is really important to me in my path. So the question that I asked was, am I going to move to Scotland in February? And the reason I asked is because I actually don't know. I have a plan for that. That's what I would like. But I don't have my visa yet. I don't even have what I need to get my visa yet in full. I am feeling like I don't actually know what I'm doing necessarily in January. So I've been looking for, should I be moving earlier? Could I, would I? And I also was open to, if I needed to move in March and go, closer to my next shamanic training, that was okay too. So I really did have this flexible, like January, February, March. So what I asked the pendulum was, am I going to be moving to Scotland in February? Yes, correct. And so because that was a yes, I didn't actually know the answer. Now I can kind of go, okay, if that's true, what else do I need to know? What else is going on? That actually quells a lot of my, thoughts about it for now, but you may have other follow-up questions that come out of it. When you stop getting movement, if it's just stopped, you could always start it again, and you don't need to ask your yes, no. Like if you're in a good intuitive sort of, and when I say intuitive, I mean receptive, you can receive and listen. You're in a good listening spot, spiritual listening. Then you could just keep asking questions. But sometimes it's a good time to do pendulum work, but then you exhaust yourself with questions and maybe you start losing the point. So ask yourself, what do you really need to know? And you can do that even hand to heart. You don't even need the pendulum involved with that. What do you really need to know right now? So take a moment, ask yourself, okay, what do I really want answers on right now? And I mean, if you're watching this on the replay, you're not going to be seen or anything. So you should ask something that is important to you. For many years, I was afraid to ask real questions. So I would ask, they're real questions, but you know what I mean. I would ask questions like, are we having pizza food tonight? Oh, not pizza. Are we having Chinese food? No. Are we having Thai? Okay, yes. I love Thai food. So it's like you're going through and asking questions. I would ask questions of my own desires, of my own, do I want this? What do I need for this? What's going to happen for this? Just stuff that I couldn't even process or handle, but it wasn't earth-shattering, life-changing stuff. I think in a way that was really helpful, because when you start working with pendulum and you're losing your clarity, keeping it simple and keeping it actionable is much easier than, if I'd asked myself 5 years ago, am I going to move to Scotland? I'd be like, I don't know. It would have been overwhelming. I'd love that, but I don't know. And even intuitively feeling like maybe I will, I don't think I would have even been ready for the answer. So I wouldn't have needed to ask the question. So just because we can ask questions doesn't mean we're always ready for the answers. And just because now is a good time to practice pendulum doesn't mean every single question is appropriate for that time. So just to let you know how things can kind of shift and change. And you might not use the pendulum every single day, or you might have a week where, it's really helpful to keep pulling it out and just getting your head out of that second guessing, out of that doubting mode. So take a moment, sit and reflect, think about, what is it that you'd like to ask today that you don't know the answer to, but would really help if you knew? Try to make it a yes or no, since that is the system we're using today, yes or no questions. Okay, keep taking a minute for that. I'm going to tell you some other ways that we're going to start working with pendulum, and then we're going to do this all together once more, the whole system of calibrating and the yes nos. Is now a good time? Ask a question you know the answer to, and then ask one you don't know the answer to. Really funny thing, I was going to, when we were doing this, I was going to ask the question, instead of, am I 30 years old? I was going to ask, am I moving to Scotland in February? Because a part of me is planning and knowing and wanting that to be the case. But when I did a quick check in my mind, I went, I actually haven't asked the answer of this. I don't know. I'm going on an assumption that everything's going to work out. And I haven't actually asked my intuition, is this appropriate? I'm used to working with it a little bit more now, my own intuition. So I'm not tending to do that. But sometimes pendulums are great for, even if you're on top of your intuitive skills, but need to check in that they're accurate and that you're not just making a plan and having wishful thinking and then acting as if that's intuitive knowing. That has happened to me before, where I've thought, oh, I really want this to happen. Therefore, I I feel it's probably intuitive. That's not necessarily always the case. And so, yeah, really important, I think, to ask the questions from that sacred place and from maybe a tool as well to get that confirmation, especially on big ones. Like this is a really big move. So it's good for me to actually validate that, get that checked. And if I wanted extra validation, there's a whole bunch more intuitive tools that I'm going to be teaching, both in Align Your Life or these pendulum workshops. I'll keep talking about intuition, different ways we can use them. But for now, I'll tell you about what is coming next. So next week, I'm going to teach chakra pendulum body readings. So that's super fun. If you have ever been a client of mine, you probably would have seen me do this at some point, especially when I was in person. I did these all the time. And I would do them at markets and I would do them just at like parties. It's like my party trick. I would like do them for friends. I keep a pendulum in my pocket so that I could write it on a napkin and do a chakra pendulum reading for someone if they needed. And right now I use it in more of a higher level with empath energetics. People learn how to do their own chakra pendulum readings. And in a moment, I might ask, hey, can you pull out your pendulum and do a chakra reading on this specific issue, which is so cool. Get to see a bit of a map of how that person is energetically relating to an issue, something they're manifesting, something they're trying to become in themselves, so very cool as far as spiritual soul growth and personal development is concerned. Again, you can use pendulums for making decisions. So I will probably do one on pendulums for reducing decision fatigue. I'll probably do that in December because holy, do we normally have to make lots of decisions around the holidays and around the end of the year and going into the next year, honestly. So I'll probably do that in December. Another one that we will do is some pendulum charts. And so I will teach different ways of working with charts. As well, we'll do using pendulums for clearing your energy or balancing your chakras, balancing your energy. And we'll also do asking the right questions. So like intuition development, really from a mental perspective, and pretty much anything that someone could want. So very exciting. Oh, Amber alerts. If you're not in Canada, we get phone texts if like something serious happens, if someone takes, someone's child away or something like that. They're called Amber alerts, and then we get them on our phone. So anyway, they were just doing a test of that. So yeah, so those are some different ways that I'm going to teach pendulum workshops in the coming weeks. So just take a look down below, and on heartsfrontier.com, you can see pendulum workshops and alignment workshops in the event section. I'm going to try and keep that as updated as possible. And they will have different links. If you've been with me, as a client for a while, I often will use the same call link for our group calls and things like that. But for this, it's important to me that we keep them separate just so that they're all labeled well, really making my life easier on the back end of the tech. Okay. And if you have a business, again, I did mention this at the beginning, but I am getting into or back into really supporting business owners and specifically spiritual business owners, but open to any and all, because I'm helping no matter which end of the spectrum you're coming from. If you're a business person really looking to develop your spiritual and intuitive side and to understand the energetics of what's going on, how to strengthen your business with soul work, then I'm there for you. If you are soul and spiritually connected and aligned, but you're like, how the heck do I make this business work? I love helping with that as well. So that's the Align Your Business track or the Executive Energetics track. You can just reach out to me. I love doing little meetups and just trying to see whether that works for people. Pretty genuine about not working with someone if it doesn't feel right and trying to find the best way to work with each other based on where you're at. So lots of things to check out. I'm not going to keep rattling them off, but pendulum workshops, I think since you're already here, would be a great thing to get you started. Or if you're already ready to deepen your intuition, getting into that Align Your Life program would be of great help. And then you'll get access to all the workshops, so you don't have to pay for everyone separately. So the next one we'll do is chakra pendulum readings, and then I'll keep announcing them as time goes on. So hopefully this is giving you enough time. I've bought you time to think about what question you're going to ask. So write it in the comments, write it in the chats and the comments below. I am just really curious to see what you are asking, or if you have any questions about the way that you're asking. Okay, so then pull out your pendulum, You can place your hand underneath it. If you are like me, I like seeing that. And then you're going to say, show me a yes. So we're just doing it again. You might already know, you might know this forever and be like, Kate, that's boring, but it's just really good to check, okay? Especially if you're using a new pendulum. So show me a yes, show me a no. Mine was already changing because I was feeling my no. Okay, it is now a good time to be doing pendulum work. And thank goodness, it's still a good time for me. Now, ask a question you know the answer to. Your age, what your birth date is, what your favorite color is, if it's accurate, something very simple. Ask a simple question that you know is a yes or no is a no. You know the answer to it. And now ask your question that you don't know the answer to. Okay, so if you've gotten your answer, then let me know. I got my answer. Just type it in the comments. Say, I got my answer. I just want to know if you're successful with this. And if you are needing help, instead of writing, I got my answer, start that comment, start that chat, and right now ask me the question that you think you might need to help you get through this. So if you've listened to all this and you're getting no movement and you're really struggling with your pendulum, you have options, okay? You can choose to book a 15-minute with me. Just say, Kate, I'm struggling with the pendulum thing. Let me know. And then we can try to find a way to work together. I can just show you in that 15 minutes what you're missing, and then maybe we don't talk again. It's unlikely, but we can find some way to work forward, and I can help you with whatever you're dealing with your pendulum. Or you can take the Pendulum Power course. I have it online. You can just buy the access to, then you get my pendulum charts and you get more of these videos, and maybe something there will shake something loose for you. You can keep attending these pendulum workshops. You can ask right now in the comments, in the chat, your question. If you ask me a question somewhere in here, I'll be able to help with how come you're not trusting yourself with that answer. Or maybe this question needs to be rephrased, right? We'll cover more about that in the Asking the Right Questions workshop as well. So hopefully you've learned something. Let me know. I got my answer. If it worked and you love the pendulum, I got my answer. Just type it in the comments below. And I would love to see you at any of these upcoming pendulum workshops. It's so nice to be online doing my thing. I'm going to be on YouTube more often. I say that every time because I do love being on YouTube more often. It's never not true. But I do have more steady living situations now, and then through next year, once I'm in Scotland, steady. I just get to have the same setup, which really, it does make it so much easier for me to do more regular videos when I've got a regular setup. So the, fun part of being nomadic is always new. The fun part of being less nomadic is that you're always set up. So yeah, there you go. So let me know if you have any questions at all. Again, right, I got my answer if you did. And if you didn't, then I really am hoping that we can continue working together, that you trust me to say I can get you through this. I've never had someone work with me and not eventually be able to access their own intuition using a pendulum. It's why I keep teaching it. It's why it's an empath energetics. It's a little tool. It can fit in most people's pockets or purses. I have one of mine in a wallet, so it's very easy to keep around and so beneficial. Can really be useful, especially if you're in a big situation, but you're doubting yourself and you just run off to the washroom quick, you do a pendulum reading and you go back and you know where you stand. So it can help you when you're in that kind of bind. It can help you just open up and trust yourself. And it can help you anytime you step off track of you get into a self-doubt kind of mode. Doesn't happen to me as often these days, but like, I'm human. There are times, and especially with certain areas of my life, I can maybe be like, oh, I'm not really sure I'm all right about that. And so I go and pull out the pendulum and see, okay, what is the truth here? And I let myself really see for myself what I'm feeling. So hopefully that all makes sense. And please let me know if you have any questions. I've said that a billion times. You can't say it enough. People still get scared to ask. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. Hope you're getting cozy if it's winter season for you as well. And yeah, I hope to see you soon at some of these future events. So wishing you all well in your healing path and your journey of self-healing. Everyone's all self-healing in their own ways. So hopefully pendulum is something that excites you as well. And you can continue coming along for this pendulum journey. Okay, take care, everyone.